bring it to the 6th Congressional District. He's a nominee on the Democratic side, the one and only Mr. Greg Marcel Dixon. How you doing today, Mr. Dixon?
I'm doing good, Logan. How are you?
Doing great, sir. Let's get down to it. You're running for the 6th Congressional District here in the state of South Carolina. You're going the Democratic side against your incumbent, House Representative Mr. James Clyburn. The biggest thing that people talk about is who you are and what you represent. You talk about some things about, number one, you mentioned that in your district is highly below the level it's supposed to be. It's not on par, and that the incumbent is morely focused on everyone else's.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me again. And I want to give some statistics about my district, first of all. South Carolina's congressional districts, which includes my home county where I've lived my entire life and was raised, Jasper County. It is the 6th poorest district out of 400 in the United States of America, out of 435 districts total in the country. 3rd poorest for children. We have the highest eviction rate. We have the highest level of toxicity in our water. We have the highest rate of Black amputees, people getting their arms and legs chopped off, amputated because of preventable health reasons, because we don't have access to grocery stores with nutritious food and healthcare clinics. And so the first thing I would do is address one of the major issues here, this being a majority Black district and a large number of us being Gullah Geechee. We live on land that is a part of a system called heirs property. That's when people inherit their property without a will. So everyone gets a share of the property. The unfortunate thing is if someone sells their share for whatever reason, other people used to be able to get bought out. And you can have 10 people living on 60 acres of property, and usually a racist judge who hated Black people would say to the person who wants to buy everyone else's share, okay, you can buy them out $10,000. Each Black person gets $1,000, they gotta go. But the property's probably worth $500,000. Used to happen all the time. Black Americans have lost 15 million acres of the 16 million our ancestors fought to get and fought to keep, because the number one cause of lynching was land theft. So the first
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Welcome back. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Yes. Today we're going to be talking about why Marcel Dixon lost against James Clyburn for the 6th Congressional District in South Carolina. The 6th district, which, as Marcel Dixon had indicated, is the poorest in South Carolina. Okay? And as you know, that since Clyburn had won, that put him back into Congress, and this is his actual 16th term. Okay. But why did Marcel Dixon lose? What was the problem of why Marcel Dixon had lost? And I want to go in talking about that today on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. TheState.com, which is one of South Carolina's newspaper, did an article called South Carolina's sole Democrat Jim Clyburn fends off two challengers in primary race to secure the 16th term. And this is by Stephen Paste. You see, the white media has already said he fended off these two challengers real easy, right? South Carolina's sole Democrat in Congress, Jim Clyburn, easily fended off two Democratic challengers in his primary race Tuesday to secure his 16th term. I hope that I'm able to continue to serve the people of South Carolina in a way that would make all of them proud and maybe get the other 10 or 12% that I didn't get tonight. Clyburn told reporters virtually after his race was called. Unofficial result Wednesday as Clyburn, with nearly 88% of the vote, the State Election Commission will certify votes later this week. Clyburn, who will turn 82 in July, is likely headed to another 2-year term in Congress after he beat two long-shot Democratic challengers, Michael Addison and Marcel Dixon. You see, they noticed the white media is saying two long-shot opponents, right? Clyburn will face Republican challenger Duke Bartner, an attorney from Walterboro, in November after results show Bartner with more than 70% percentage points. I always enjoyed campaigning, and I don't see any reason why the voters should not vote with favor up on my candidacy, Clyburn told the state days ahead of the primary. I always worked as hard as I possibly can to make what this country is all about realistically as I possibly can for the folks who lived in it. And it's been the foundation up on which I built my service. Okay, and let me just stop right there. Clyburn basically has passed legislation, supported legislation, as you know, to give the Taconerian Indians, I hope I said that right, land. He has not done any damn thing for black folks. He has not passed no real concrete measures that would help the black community in his district at all. That's number one. It goes on to say here that first elected in 1992, Clyburn is currently the third-ranking Democrat in the U.S. House and ain't done a damn thing, representing the 6th district that now stretches from Columbia to parts of Charleston, Lake City, and the state border near Savannah, Georgia. Clyburn said that with nearly 100,000 different people in the district due to the reapportionment, people still know him as well. For the first time, the entire peninsula of Charleston is my district. You have to work very hard to find anybody on the Charleston Peninsula who is not in favor with me, Clyburn said in an interview with the state. I ran into a woman the other day who said, I have been waiting 30 years to cast a vote for you. Considered a kingmaker in South Carolina politics, Clyburn is largely credited with helping to send President Joe Biden to the White House after Clyburn endorsed then President a candidate ahead of the state presidential primary after Biden failed to win in other early voting states. Okay. As a campaign rally over the weekend, Clyburn listed infrastructure investment that he's delivered to the district and that the support he had given to the area and out of his congressional role, all of which he described as proof he is walking the walk. In Congress, Clyburn had been a public advocate for expanding broadband access, and he chaired a panel dedicated to the COVID-19 pandemic. I called for Republican governors of South Carolina, Henry McMaster's, and he said to me, because of what y'all have done within 3 to 5 years, every house and every business in South Carolina is going to have broadband, Clyburn said. And I was walking around the Capitol. People started referring to me as Jim Broadband. Why? I wasn't just talk, I will walk. Okay. And it goes on to say some more stuff, but let's stop right there. You see, old black people will do anything to sell their people out, their children out. Okay? They vote uh, Democrat no matter what. Okay? They will vote Democrat no matter what because this is what, if anything that go against their white paymasters or their white handlers, and they will basically say, no, I don't want to do that. I'm scared. I don't know what these white folks will say. And we have to look at that as being a problem for young folks. And not only just young folks in South Carolina, but young folks in general. The poorest district in the 6th district and its black district. And other districts, they're changing the district in the Senate. And that's why I told you you can't rely upon politics to be your only power shift, because the white man is going to basically change it all the time. It doesn't benefit him. This is the reason why running for Congress, of course, or running for a political office, that's only possibly just a part of it. It's not the whole thing. Let's give some side notes to what happened in South Carolina in the 1700s. South Carolina slave codes were revised in 1739 with the following amendments. Okay, the first slave code, remember, as you know, if you look at study history, was in 1695. Okay, neighboring Georgia, where I stay, adopted the South Carolina Code in 1770. Okay, and then Florida follows suit from Georgia, and so on and so forth. The Negro Act of 1740, and these are the slave codes, prohibit enslaved African people from growing their own food, learning to read, moving freely, assembling in groups, or earning money at that time. South Carolina was one of the 13 colonies that first formed the United States of America. Okay? So that's kind of a history of South Carolina. And that's going to tell you basically why, okay, you're going to have problems with changing the older folks in the civil rights movement and their mindset, okay? But let's deal with that before we get into the civil rights, generation in South Carolina and why they vote scarily all the time. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. ScrewTube, of course, have me on the shadow ban. They don't like my commentary. They have been taking subscribers away from us. So just like, share, and subscribe here. Now let's look at the voting results. I'm going to announce the voting results here. James Clyburn won 88.6% of the vote. So he got 27,579 to be exact. Michael Addison won 7.3% of the vote, or 2,273 to be exact. And Marcel DiXon won 4.1% of the vote, with only 1,262 people voting for him. Okay. And now Clyburn will face Black Republican Duke Bartner. Okay. Now, let's do some math here a little bit. Marcel DiXon basically was basically entering an uphill battle. Okay, because when you look at the demographics of South Carolina in the sixth district, and we'll get a little bit later on if we have time to talk about why a person who is running for, let's say, Congress or running for the Senate, and why you cannot only rely upon politics as black folks to try to empower yourself. So, in an estimate, in the numbers of, according to Wikipedia, the sixth district have a population of about 646,463 people. Okay, gender wise, it's 48,000. I'm sorry, 48.9 male and 51.1 male. So, in other words, it's more females than males in that population. Heavenly, the older people and mostly women are going to vote traditionally. Okay, you can talk that reparation talk to them all the time, but the civil rights generation are stuck on voting traditional, and they're going to tell their daughters to do the same thing. Okay, now you might get a few black women who will go out there and support you, but the vast majority is going to vote traditional, and they're going to vote Democrat. Okay. Now I'm moving the black men aside for a little bit because black men didn't go out and vote for Joe Biden as he claimed that they did. Okay. But when we looked at the demographics in South Carolina, we looked at the fact that race, white people made up 37.7% of the sixth district. Black people made up 52.7% of the sixth district, which was about 380,000 some odd people. And of course, Hispanics at 6.1 and Asians at 1.3. So black people is a majority. Right now, the NAACP is suing the state of South Carolina and politicians because that they keep on in the Senate redistricting South Carolina. Okay? So if Jimbo James Bo Clyburn, his district is to prove that no, see, there's no racism there. We're not moving a district. Well, the reason why they don't have to redistrict his district is because they know the vast majority of people in the district is going to vote for an incumbent like James Clyburn. Let's talk about it on a side note, and then we'll come back to the population. Now, keep in mind, blacks are the majority in the 6th District. But February 15, 2022 was a different story for those who are complaining about the redistricting map of South Carolina. Let's talk about it. The South Carolina new congressional map challenged as unconstitutional, racially discriminatory, and the federal lawsuit is what they're now trying to, what they filed in the NAACP, right? The complaint filed by the NAACP in South Carolina chapter alleges lawmakers use race as the primary factor and drawing the 1st, the 2nd, and the 5th congressional districts in order to dilute the voting strength of black South Carolinians in those districts and maintain the political power. You see? And this is how white folks cheat all the time. They just change the rules, change the laws. Remember when Hillary Clinton won? Hillary Clinton went up against Barack Obama in 2009. She knew that she lost against him, but let's go ahead and extend the numbers of what you get in the electoral college numbers, and it still came out that Obama won, trying to give Hillary Clinton an exit strategy. Okay. So white folks always have changed the rules. Now, what did the complaint say? Let's read it again. It says that the federal complaint filed by the NAACP in South Carolina alleges lawmakers use race as a primary factor in drawing the 1st, the 2nd, and the 5th congressional districts in order to dilute the voting strength of black South Carolinians and those districts and to maintain political power. See, in other words, the white man said in South Carolina, listen, we're basically is losing power because we recognize that blacks and others are moving into the district. But in order to keep us majority voting how we are, so that we can maintain political power, we'll just keep on redistricting. Okay, we'll just keep on changing the district. So hopefully we can get some white wingers or some people who wants to vote only for white folk. We hopefully get them in a district, basically, so that we can do that. You see, and that's the reason why you can't just rely up on politics. So even if Marcel Dixon would have won, next go around, they would try to figure out if they can change South Carolina's district, of course. The article goes on to talk about the issue back in February of 2022. It goes on to talk there. It says, listen, this is coming from the NAACP. The recently adopted congressional map denies black South Carolinians political representation at the federal level. South Carolina NAACP President Brenda Murphy said in a statement, we must fight against all efforts to disenfranchise black voters in South Carolina, and we must work to ensure that black voters are given fair and equal representation in the halls of the nation's capital. You see? And that's what South Carolinians are dealing with right now. So let's go back over to talk about the voting prospect of the 6th district. Now, like I said, there's 52.7% of black people in South Carolina. That's 380 some odd people, 380,000 or more. You got 37.7% white, which is 238,000 people, white folk, in that district. In that district. So what some white folks said is, okay, we don't want to hear what Michael Addison is talking about, and we definitely don't want to support this Negro talking about this reparation stuff. So we got to guard up more poor whites to, of course, vote against their interests, and to vote not only against their interests, but we got to convince them that Clyburn is the best for the white people, the white South Carolinians inside the 6th district, more better than Michael Addison and Marcel Dixon. Okay? Not to mention Kamala Harris came down there talking about collard greens. Okay? So you got to look at how old folks vote. The older black people have a vitriol for the young black folk. Okay? Let's go ahead and talk about it. The older civil rights generation, no matter where they are, have a vitriol. They cannot stand their children. Anything that basically hurts white daddy and white mommy, they're going to be scared and they're going to vote against your interests, because what they're trying to do is die a peaceful death. They do not like black folk, their black children at all. That's the reason why when you hear them say that, oh, you young folks this, you young folks that, they are scared and they are afraid to vote for their children. They'll tell you what y'all need to, young people need to do all day, but they will not set up a system to do it. In fact, they have failed to create us an economy. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. So you only had about 31,114 people who voted in the district. In other words, the vast majority of the people in the district said, I'm going to set this out. Listening to what we have said in the black media about setting out this political arena. You see what I'm saying? Or this particular situation. So what the black grassroots in other form was sending black people in this district and black people everywhere the wrong message. Okay. First you said, well, let's set out this voting term. But then when Marcel Dixon started to run, you said, well, y'all go out there and vote like you never voted before. Same thing that Dr. Claude Anderson did. Okay, don't vote if you ain't got, look at all the candidates. Oh, you go vote like you never did before, right? So you kind of send mixed messages to black folks that said, well, we're going to set this out because we get no tangible benefits. We get nothing in return for our votes. So the black media basically was kind of contradictory there. And I wish Greg Marcel would have talked to me and I would have told him about this situation. So we had 646,463 people that stayed in South Carolina, that lives in South Carolina. And you had the vast majority of people that did not go to the polls because in the black media, in the so-called black media, we were basically saying that we were going to not vote for at all because the politicians was not giving us tangible benefits, you see. So if they're not giving us tangible benefits and you're showing mixed messages and saying to black folk in South Carolina and black folks in other places, yeah, we're going to set this out. You're sending mixed messages to the people in South Carolina. You're sending mixed messages to the black voters that you said set this out because the Democrats haven't done a damn thing for black people. So when Marcel lost and Marcel was running for the 6th District of South Carolina, you sent your voters mixed messages. In fact, because he was, always online talking to those in the black grassroots media, he was not, in the faces of the people that he was supposed to really get some type of momentum on in order to come and vote for him in South Carolina primaries. You see, you only had 31,114 people that came out to vote. We're talking about 31,114 people. Now, let's say that if Marcel Dixon, of course, would have went and printed out 60,000 flyers, okay, and had his team or had the radio or had the local press or did a lot of interviews and whatever, and he was able to get 60,000 people to pass up the flyers and say, hey, go vote for me. Well, he would have knocked James Clyburn, possibly would have went neck to neck with him, which would have caused him to basically defeat James Clyburn, because James Clyburn only got 27,579 people to vote for him. Mostly was the white folk. Okay, so the white folks came out and helped him get over that threshold. And we're only talking about 31,114 people that only voted in this primary, whereas the rest of the 646,000 people stayed away from voting because they went along with what the grassroots was saying. Hey, we're going to stay home and not vote for nobody because we're not getting tangible benefits. So we sent out the wrong messaging, you see. Bacardi Sellout made fun of Marcel Dixon's effort on a grassroots level. Okay? And there was other YouTubers, and I'm not here to criticize Marcel, but what I'm saying is in the black grassroots and even in the black media, they did send mixed messages. They did say that we're not going to go vote for anybody until we get tangible benefits. And of course, he was talking about reparations for black folk. But you have a lot of black people in the civil rights generation that is still stuck on, oh, we've got to vote traditional. See, we can't be upsetting white daddy and white mommy, you see. Another thing about Marcel Dixon that was pointed out with another black YouTuber is he talked about the fact that he had raised there around $160,000, right? Raised $160,000 and yet did not spend a lot of the money on advertisement. And he was always online talking to the YouTubers, knowing that these black people on YouTube is not going to be able to vote for him. You have to stay in the face of your constituency or the people you want to elect you. Okay? And so I would have also, if he would have talked with me on the Black Grassroots, I would have told him that not only did you have to worry about that, you have to also worry about the civil rights generation's eldest children. Okay? Who is the civil rights generation's eldest children? These are your Kasim Reeds. These are your Keisha Lance Bottoms. These is your, what's the vice president name? Kamala Harris. These are your, Martin Luther King III's, your Stacey Abrams, your Kasim Reeds. These are the civil rights generation's eldest children. You understand? And they basically is going to make it a point to continue the same tradition that the civil rights generation has kept, and that is to engage in non-economic liberalism for the black community. Okay? We're talking about the civil rights generation's eldest children, right? Like I said, your Kasim Reeds. It was just announced that Keisha Lance Bottoms had just got a job working with the Biden administration, even though almost 150 something odd people, I'm sorry, 15 people, not that many, 15 people have already retreated from Jim Crow Joe Biden's administration, you see. But on a grassroots level, you don't go to the black media as far as people who are not going to be able to vote for you. You only talk to them after you get finished campaigning. Moreover, so you can focus on the constituency. And this could have been an easy win for him because, like I said, it's 646,000 people in the district. And so James Clyburn only got 27,000 people or so to come out and defeat this man. So that tells you, like the other YouTubers had pointed out, that he did not spend enough money into voting. Into basically getting enough people to come out and vote for him as well. You see, and of course you can't spend the money. You have to let it sit there, because if you try to spend the money, then you're going to be brought up on all kinds of charges. And we talk about all these finance laws. So you can't spend the money. It's like if you raise it for a campaign, it's set there in the reserve, and you can't spend it unless you run again, right? And so the spending, like for instance, I would have spent if I had $160,000 and I'm running for that, I would have spent at least $100,000 on radio advertisement in South Carolina, and I would have also put more flyers into the rural areas as well. I would have tried to get some white folks as well, try to get them to pass out flyers. But man, 1,262 people, that tells you that you focus on the black grassroots that couldn't vote for you versus the people that's in your district, you see. And that is a bad mistake for any black person that is running for the congressional seat. And it's a bad deal for anybody who's running on the state level as well. Okay. Now, when we send mixed messages to black people and say, hey, y'all stay away from the voting polls. You know, these white folks and these people in Congress, they ain't done nothing for us, right? And going back to what I said earlier about voting, okay, you have to understand that the white folks are going to cheat every time you start getting political power within these districts. They're going to cheat. They're going to start redistricting so they can bring more white folks in. The only reason why they didn't do that to James Bull Clyburn is because his district is ran by him and he's going to vote like the white folks want him to. That's the reason why they ain't got no problem redistricting him, you see. Goes on to say that not only dealing with the civil rights generation's eldest children, you have to also deal with the fact that it's going to take more than 15 to about 20 or 30 years to reshape the minds after the civil rights generation's eldest children are no longer here on earth. Okay? Like I said, you're still dealing with the civil rights generation right now because, of course, a lot of them have not died out. You know, it's just unfortunate to say that, but, you know, so they're still dealing with that old we should overcome type mentality. Okay? So the district here is that you had not that many African Americans that voted in South Carolina, even for James Clyburn. Okay? And so you had some black folks who was just not really going to just vote because they just didn't like the fact that voting is doing anything for them as black folk. You got those people on the grassroots level as well. But the article on thestate.com goes on to say that Clyburn's two Democratic challengers told the state this won't be their last election. Okay? Addison, 65, is a chiropractor with a previous unsuccessful run for the South Carolina Senate. Addison said he has acquaintances with Clyburn and admire him, but said Clyburn is out of touch with local residents. Dixon, 37, is a teacher and Jasper County resident. Dixon ran on the campaign to repair Black America and said Clyburn had misled the district. Part of his campaign platform included push for reparations for Black residents. Despite the candidates recognizing Clyburn's influential status, both said that they were campaigning because the district struggles with increasing poverty and home ownership. In the weeks leading up to the election, both also said they plan to run again. Clyburn doesn't seem to worry. Of course not. Of course not. This is his 16th win. He has been sitting in that office since 1992. He is a part of the establishment. Okay? And that's why when you're a part of the establishment, just like he was able to do, he went out and got Kamala Harris because he thought that these two other challengers was going to bring him a challenge here. But nevertheless, we went out. It's the spending. It is the spending of Marcel Dixon and him not being in the faces of South Carolinians that caused him this election. Not to mention that you had a lot of stubborn old folk. Okay? And then, of course, the vast majority of the black people said, well, you know, politics is not going to do nothing for us. You know, they basically set and said, listen, I don't want to basically vote anymore. I'm giving up on the voting process. They're not going to do anything for us. And you had those people in the mindset that just simply just gave up on voting. Okay? Now this time, though, you got Clyburn that is going to face a black Republican in the same district, which is interesting now. Okay. Now, to rehash, you got 665,215 people in the district. The median income is around $41,128. Okay. So most of your teachers are probably making anywhere between $27,000 to about $31,000 there, if give or take. And of course, the ethnicity there is 49.0%, mostly black. Now, this Republican challenger is a native from Walterboro named Duke Butler. Now, he will face off with Clyburn in November. Okay? So look at how many possibly white conservatives that's in the 6th district, and then also look at the fact that there could be black conservatives that would basically get Butler over the threshold. It's a possibility. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I'm saying it might be a possibility that he could outdo Clyburn in the election. If you have more black folks who get upset and decide to do a protest vote to get James Clyburn and put a Republican in there, a black Republican. I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying, hey, Clyburn is still worried, right? Because he recognized that in the people mostly vote in the primary, not in the primary, but in the runoff the elections. And the fact of the matter is this: if he can get out of those 238,000 white folks in the district, if Butler can get a lot of them to side with him, he get those angry black voters, okay, and who will do a protest vote, okay, then he basically will be able to unseat James Clyburn and have the first black Republican in that office, which is another strategy that is going to really come in. And I'm not saying voting for Republicans is going to be any better, but how many black South Carolinians are just getting tired of Democrats as a whole? You see what I'm saying? They're sick and tired of Democrats as a whole, so they'll just wait for, until the runoff against James Clyburn and this Duke Butler, and decide what they're going to do is just go ahead and turn the state of South Carolina back to red. You understand? So that's another thing that you have to watch out for. It goes on to say here in the other article that the U.S. House Representative Jim Clyburn and Walterboro native Duke Butler will face off in South Carolina's 6th district race in November. Keep in mind, Butler is a black Republican. Okay, goes on to say now how many you think though that since they have about the vast majority of the white folks of 239,000 white people that is eligible to vote in the 6th district, well, just look at that black Republican and say, I will vote for him over James Clyburn. Goes on to say that Clyburn, the highest ranking black member of the Congress, easily fended off 2 Democratic challengers. They keep on saying that easily fended off. Remind you every time they bring up Michael Addison and GREGG Dixon, Butler's political background includes a seat on Walterboro City Council. There you go, which he won in 2009. He previously worked in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, as an attorney after having been an English teacher and newspaper managing editor in Collector County. I hope I said that county name right. Clyburn, who played a pivotal role in Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign, is vying to secure his 16th term. In other words, Clyburn recognized that the white Republicans in the 16th district could be a problem for him if he only brought out about 27,579 people to vote for him in a Democratic primary. You understand? So you still have a vast majority of those who are just upset with Democrats as a whole that could basically go and they could put a black Republican in office for the very first time in almost about 20 years, of course, 20 or 30 years. I don't know if South Carolina fluctuates as far as turning blue or red. I'm just saying that Buckner have a good chance because now, and Marcel was asked this as well about, well, why did you not run Republican? Okay, not to say that you are Republican, not to say that you agree with the Republicans. You don't agree with the Democrats, but you ran as a Democrat, you see. But now, as you recognize, most white people down in the 6th district may be turning Republican and may be voting on a Republican platform. Duke Buckner now, as who was a city councilman, okay, he was a city councilman, which now people know him in that particular city now. And we're just talking about Jim Crow James Clyburn only getting 27,579 voters to come out and vote for him in the primary. Clyburn is still worried because you still have, out of that 646,463 people, how many of those people out of the 238,000 white people, which make up 37.7% of the voting population who are white, which is poor white, may vote, like I said, conservative. That can also upseat James Clyburn. Okay? Clyburn basically could be drowned if black conservatives teams up with white people in that district to upseat him. That means that he has to bring Kamala Harris out there. He has to get probably Joe Biden or somebody to come back down there. And he has to really, really now focus on the fact that he might be still in trouble with a black conservative. Because, of course, everybody's looking for Trump to get back in 2024, you see. We talked there about South Carolina's voting situation. And we talked about the redistricting earlier here, you see. Whereas they keep on changing the redistricting in South Carolina. And, of course, Mr. Dixon mentioned what is called HERS property, which indicated that if you don't have a will, of course, on the property, you can lose the property, or basically people can come in and start claiming the property, okay, which is what he tried to deal with. The fact, which is another thing that he ran on. But a lot of people in South Carolina, of course, especially the white folks, love that particular law, right? They basically have no problem taking, black people's land from them, okay? And that's possibly the reason why in South Carolina, the Senate keep on redistricting, rechanging so they can keep the power, as the NAACP claimed in their lawsuit last February regarding South Carolina Senates keep on changing, switching up the district so white folks can have the vast majority. White people then, out of 37.7%, which is 238,000 some odd people, can still upseat James Clyburn by getting behind a black conservative who had not mentioned reparations at all. You understand? And this is going to possibly get him out of the seat. Okay? And this is going to, if that get him out of the seat, then my analyses will be correct. If it doesn't get him up out of the seat, that means that the vast majority of people in South Carolina's 6th district are either saying, well, we're just going to do a protest vote, we're not going to vote at all, because the vast majority of people really vote in runoff elections, right? So this will be interesting to see the numbers. And I think this black conservative, if he does not defeat Jim Crow James Clyburn, he may get close. He may get close. That's, for instance, if Jim Crow James Clyburn get 25,000, the conservative, what's his name, Duke Bartner, the black conservative, may probably get somewhere around, let's say 15 to about 19,000 votes, almost putting him over to take James Clyburn's seat in the 6th district. So I'm kind of interested to see, and I'm not speaking as a black conservative, even though so many people think I am. What I'm saying is that don't be fooled thinking that James Clyburn is going to stay in that district as your 16 leader yet. He still have to worry about the black conservative and the white conservatives in the 16th district, you see, that may be upset at a Democratic politician as a whole. Okay? Now, Marcelli sellouts and all these other people who is basically celebrating that, Marcel did not win. I mean, fools, these people need to get a life. Okay? They just need to get a life. So, here we go. But I just want to bring that up. Thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. I just want to come in and talk about the mistakes that Mr. Dixon made. And he's 37 years old, so he's got plenty of time to regroup and reorganize. And we'll see what happens then. You've been listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Join me next Sunday as we continue the same place, same time. You're listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Take care.